We heard a lot yesterday about the data that goes into communication, and what I'm hoping to talk to you guys about today is just to give you an example, a success story about how we put that data into practice. We used a lot of the techniques and a lot of the words that Debbie Crane talked about, a lot of the information that Sarah McCaffrey talked about yesterday, and applied it to this very specific landscape. And spoiler alert, we've had some success with this. I'll tell you a little bit about that too at the end. This picture, this is the beautiful Limbo Gorge wilderness area. It's in western North Carolina, situated inside Pisgah National Forest. In 2014, as part of their 15-year plan, the U.S. Forest Service there had the sheer audacity to suggest that they should burn in this wilderness area. They gave some great reasons for restoration, reducing fuels. We know from tree core studies, like Henry talked about yesterday, that this area burns every 3 to 7 years, or has burned for every 3 to 7 years, minus the last 8 or so years. And for all of their effort, all of their research, they were met with some pretty harsh opposition, including a change.org petition with over 1,500 signatures. If you guys are not familiar with change.org petitions, once you sign one, you are asked to give a comment about why you signed it. These are pulled straight from those comments. My personal favorite is that one at the bottom, burning forests is stupid. Just really puts it right out there, right? And so this idea started to get thrown around. They realized they had this passionate community, but they were unfortunately misinformed. And part of that was because there was an activist group that rose up against burning in the Limbo Gorge called the Friends of the Limbo Gorge, so they had sort of a misnomer there. But they gave the Forest Service a lot of pushback, and they were so active and so outspoken that eventually the Forest Service sort of took a step back and reduced their burn plans. But like we said, we realized they were passionate, we realized they were misinformed, and they had had some success with taking people along this highway as part of a driving tour and showing them spots in the forest that needed to be burned and getting that one-on-one communication that like Sarah talked about yesterday, that interactive communication, and they were able to change some minds. They also realized, though, that you can't take everyone on a driving tour. You could hire someone, and they still would not be able to change enough minds by doing a driving tour every day. So we knew we had to get something on the ground, some sort of educational effort to get this information out there. And what we came up with was this sort of tiered system. So we started with educational signs on the ground. They're NPS wayside style signs like you're used to seeing. Then we put an audio tour on CDs and also available as an NPR style radio show or podcast that you can download from iTunes. And then we added a social media launch campaign. And the way I like to think about this, besides being tiers, is also sort of like breadcrumbs. They get that first breadcrumb when they're on the landscape with the educational signs, and then if they want more information, you pull them in and they get the podcast, and they're getting that one-on-one communication with I'm in it, and then also the AFMO and the FMO on that landscape. And then hopefully that last breadcrumb will draw them into the larger conversation with social media, which is what they used. And so we sort of went onto their turf to have this conversation and to sort of switch it around. And I want to go through each of the 4 signs that we put up, and it's only 4 signs, to just give you guys an idea of how this is really placed on the ground. Now, for my first, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks on this project, I did what I called enemy recon. I'm from a military family, so that might be a little intense, but I researched what these people were saying. I went onto their forums, I looked at the actual arguments they were using, I looked at these conversations, I read their interviews with newspapers, I went out and met a few of them, it was a little scary. And we basically figured out that there were sort of 4 main issues. And they're similar to what Sarah described yesterday. They didn't know who we are, or what we were doing. They didn't understand where this was coming from. They didn't understand history and the role of fire on this landscape. And they thought that fire meant permanent damage. They don't understand the process of succession. And so the first sign, the first message we wanted to get across was that the same people who start controlled burns are the same people that fight wildfires. You would be amazed at how many people don't understand this. I am constantly telling people, my red card gives me the license to start and stop fires. If you know about fire, you can do either. For some reason, people love firefighters, sending us supplies, they're sending us Gatorade and chapstick by the truckload, and they did this past fall. But when it comes to controlled burn season, a short month later, 2 months later, all of a sudden they're upset. And so that's a message we really wanted to get across, that these are our wildland firefighters. We use language like ours and our community and try and give people ownership and give them that sense of pride that these are, we're all out there. You guys are all out there protecting these homes and forests, sometimes by doing controlled burns. We also had the message of safety. Debbie mentioned safety is a number one concern, so we have a little blurb up there at the top about PPE, what PPE stands for. We sort of try to give it this look like inside track, like you're getting this inside information. We call it PPE, so personal protective equipment. Giving people that little inside scoop so they feel like they're brought into your world a little bit makes a huge difference. We also have a lot of people that come to the area of Western North Carolina as history buffs, so we try to tie that birth of state forestry in the past 100 years into these signs to get that crowd. The poster up here on the right that says Campers and Wagoners, I actually pulled that from a 1915 state geologist paper. They had these actual posters about fire. And so showing them that this conversation about fire isn't a new one. This is something we've been talking about for years. It's part of our culture. It's part of the culture of the area. That makes a huge difference. And that little scrap of paper, it's hard to read in these slides, but that's from a letter to the governor talking about how timber was so important because it was part of the war effort. So tying that back to these other interests that people have. You can't just tell them about what you care about with the forest like we learned yesterday. You have to tie it to these other little aspects that they come there for. This sign is one of my personal favorites. So this is placed at Wiseman's Overlook, which is probably the most popular spot in Little Gorge. And one of the reasons it's my favorite is because the picture in the background, when you're standing facing the sign and you look up, that's exactly what you're seeing. And I can't stress how important that is. I don't know how many signs I've seen where it said you're standing in one spot and it says, well, a mile from this spot, something happened. I don't care. I want to know what happened right there on the ground where you're standing. So tying that very specific message to that very specific spot and landscape is so vital to getting these messages through. And this goes through a timeline. It gives you a view about the past 100 years of fire history in this area. And notice that big block in the middle, that's the fire suppression era. We dared to say that there was a fire suppression era. I know. It's wild. But we needed to get that point across, that there's a time, and we're coming out of this time, where there's been fire suppressed, where we had the 10 a.m. rule in North Carolina. Fires had been put out by 10 a.m. And then suddenly, right after that, there's a bunch of fires that you can see these fire scars while you're standing at this spot. So it gives this idea, and we also talk about the 3 to 7 years. Fire occurred here historically every 3 to 7 years. So we're trying to tie that history to the landscape. This one was a personal accomplishment for me. We used Debbie Crane's rules and language, the TNC rules of language, what we could say, what we couldn't say. And let me tell you, while I was designing signs, I was coming to the end of my master's, I was getting ready to defend my thesis, and as a budding graduate student, to talk about succession without saying ecosystem, landscape, green infrastructure, climax community, anything about a community, it's tough, it's a stretch. But we went through and we really tried to break down the process. What is succession? It's just a cycle. It's a change, and we wanted to get that idea across, that there's a disturbance, but that it'll come back around. You'll start to see those wildflowers and the animals will come back, and that it's all okay. It's just part of the process. And so I mentioned the science, and I've gone through this in detail, but the other two parts of this, if you remember, were the podcast-style audio tour and the social media and launch campaign. And I have a little snippet of the podcast for y'all to get a taste of.
Welcome to the Fire Learning Trail, brought to you by the Fire Learning Network, the Consortium of Appalachian Fire Managers and Scientists, the Nature Conservancy of North Carolina, and the USDA Forest Service. Your guides on this trail are Greg Phillip and Chase Frisbee of the USDA Forest Service, and I'm Jen Bunty with the Nature Conservancy of North Carolina and the Southern Blue Ridge Fire Learning Network. introductory chapter of our series, and in this chapter, we're going to be telling you a little bit more about the Fire Learning Trail, what you can expect to hear about the area that you're going to be traveling through, including the Grandfather Ranger District and the Lingo Gorge Wilderness area. But first, we need to meet our guides, Greg and Chase. So, Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Greg Phillip. I'm the District Fire Management Officer on the Grandfather Ranger District. I've worked here since 1999. I was the Assistant Fire Management Officer up until 2011. I'd like to welcome you to the Fire Learning Trail. It's an idea that we've been throwing around with the Central Blue Ridge Escarpment of the Fire Learning Network, kind of the old school idea of the auto tour, going through the district with all the different examples of fire management in the old 105 highway. I'd like to introduce Chase Frisbee. He's the Assistant Fire Management Officer on the district.
My name is Chase Frisbee. I'm Greg's assistant here on the Grandfather. I've got about 12 years working with the Forest Service. I started my career in Montana as a seasonal firefighter. Came here to the Grandfather in 2007, and I've been working here.
Welcome to the Fire Learning Trail, brought to you by the Fire Learning... Sorry.
Okay, there we go. So the podcast came as a result of needing to have those voices on the ground, and more importantly, it was because I kept going to meetings and having that FMO and that AFMO say, no one listens to us, we can't get a hold of all these people. And I said, well, do I have a platform for you? The great news about podcasts is that they're super cheap to produce. They're really, basically all you need is a microphone and sheer will. And you can get that information out there. And I think it makes a big difference to get people who are from the area specifically. You know, we put a little bluegrass music in it. It seems a little cheesy, but that's a big part of the heart of this area. Chase, you only heard for a snippet at the end there, but he has that great southern twang. And at some point he gets really into it and starts talking about, I would have thought snakes would get burned up, but I see them come out every time I do control burn. I mean, it's fantastic. And the podcast specifically, that format is great because you can get so much personality out of it. And so we put out the podcast, we put out free CDs in the cabin for anyone who's not tech savvy, so that they can actually drive along this highway and go to each stop, each sign, and listen to each chapter of the podcast that corresponds with each sign. You'll notice that each of those signs had pretty few words on them. We try to keep it to 500 words or less. My big belief is that no one reads on vacation. I say that very commonly. Guys, I'm an educational sign nerd, and if there's more than 50 words, probably I'm not going to read it. And so we figured that 500 words was if you had about 90 seconds to read out loud. I got some great advice once about planning educational events, and they said, think about mom or think about a parent. So if you think about a parent reading that out loud to a child, 90 seconds, that's actually asking a lot for their time. So 500 words takes about 90 seconds, so we try to keep each of those. And so each episode of the podcast, or each chapter of the podcast, expands upon each theme of the sign. So we have one for protecting homes and forests, talking about wildlife firefighters. We have one talking about the history of state forestry, and we have one talking about the history of fire in the Lingo Gorge, and we have one talking about succession. And so we put this out there, and then came the big push. We had to get out there on social media, and that's not just because, you know, I'm young and feel like newfangled and want to get there on social media. That's where the discussion happened in the first place. That's what they used. So we went to their turf, and we tried to change this conversation. And part of the way we did that was through a hashtag campaign, #GoodFire. Now, I don't mean to insult anybody, but I'm going to go ahead and explain what a hashtag is and how it works. The way hashtags work, it's usually that pound sign or number sign or hash sign, however you want to call it, and a short word or phrase, and you put that at the end or somewhere in the middle of a Facebook post or a tweet or any sort of social media post, and it creates an active link. So if I post something about new episode of the Fire Learning Trail podcast is up, #GoodFire, someone can go and click on that word #GoodFire and find the whole conversation, so what everybody's posted using that hashtag. You can also register hashtags, and so we registered this with the definition of talking about the role and history of fire on the landscape. We are careful about how we use it. So we weren't talking about Gatlinburg and going, #good fire. You have to be careful. It's not, necessarily the best for all situations. But it also helps us track conversations. It helps us track the use of the people. So when people put up pictures, they know #good fire. We've seen pictures from people visiting Lingo Gorge and next to the fire learning trail signs and say #good fire. I was here with my family. It helps us sort of get maybe not a quantitative view of how these conversations are happening, but definitely a qualitative view. And so the big question is, did it work for all of our efforts? We had maybe 15 reviewers, including 2 school-aged children on these signs. It took months of effort to sort of develop this plan. And the good news is, we think it is working. By our estimates, by tracking #good fire, about 50,000 to 75,000 people a day are seeing #good fire across social media platforms, so across Facebook and across Twitter mostly, and some Instagram. Now that's not huge in internet terms, but for 4 educational signs in Western North Carolina, that's pretty big. We've had more than 1,200 podcast downloads, including 300 CDs. We went through our first rung of 200 CDs in the Little Gorge Information Cabin, and we had more than 75 visitors on the first day. We counted 75 just at the first stop where we had our first sign at the Little Gorge Information Cabin. And so I want to go back to those quotes at the beginning, if you remember. I want my kids to be able to hike there one day. I don't want beautiful plants illuminated. When we started this out, and I know that a lot of people got into the field that we are all in because you didn't want to talk to people or listen to them. Unfortunately, you don't really get to do that anymore. But we started out, and the first thing we did was we listened. And what we heard was, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what this means. I'm afraid of who's doing this. I'm afraid of what it's going to look like. I'm afraid it's going to be worse. I'm afraid it's going to be ruined. We also heard this weird argument that for some reason the Forest Service is in it for the money. I know a lot of Forest Service members don't drive BMWs, so I'm not sure where that money's going. But we heard that argument as well. Recently, and there's a piece of anecdotal evidence of why I think this is really working. Recently on the Lingo Gorge Friends Facebook group, which gives all this information about hiking. People go on there when they're visiting from other countries just to get information about great trails, or where's the best place to camp, where can you pick blueberries, all this great stuff. It's also a place where that debate first started against controlled burning in the Lingo Gorge. Recently, one of our biggest opponents, one of our most outspoken spark plugs, put up some piece of information that said the Forest Service is doing it for the money. They're getting all this money to do these burns, and that's why they're lighting forests on fire. And I stayed out of it, because I have a policy of staying out of Facebook arguments. But we saw these comments come up. And slowly but surely, that conversation completely changed until that person took down their post. So you'll see, people don't join the Forest Service for the money. They do it because they love the land. That's a win. If they get rid of dead stuff with prescribed burns and it decreases the chances of fire to get out of control, animals aren't stupid. They move out of the way before a burn because people are there ahead of time. Even snakes get out. That is almost a direct quote from the 4th chapter of our podcast. The best part about this is I was able to go to these people's social media accounts, and I could see that quite a few of them had used #GoodFire. So we were able to track this conversation and watch how they became our choir. They became the fire evangelists for us, so we didn't have to go out there. And that makes so much of, we talked about, we might only get 10 people at a meeting. We might only have, 200 CDs that got handed out or 75 visitors on that first day. But those people are going out into their communities and they're talking. And so and especially when these conversations pop up on social media, they're talking and they're getting that message out there for us. So we just have to give them that ammunition. All right. So I know we have a question and answer period coming up here. But what I'd like to impress upon all of you is that, I know a lot of you out there aren't science communicators. You don't work in the world of science delivery directly. but you are on the front lines. And what I'd like to encourage you to do during the question and answer period is please ask us, the people who have had these success stories, please feel encouraged to ask us about your issues. Tell us your problems with communication or ask for our advice. We're happy to give it. I constantly say at meetings, we talk all the time about working with collaborative groups to build capacity to get fire on the ground, but we can also work together to build capacity in communication, and it goes both ways. One of the things we do as a consortium, we aren't necessarily as restricted in communication in terms of who can talk, where we can talk, how we can talk, if we have to go through a PIO, things like that. And so we are able to get that word out there for you, or maybe have those conversations that you aren't necessarily as free to have. So please use this as a resource, and please let me know in the question and answer period what issues you have and if I can help. Thank you.